And welcome everybody to episode 53 of the Odyssey Hour. And I was so hoping, and up until like 30 minutes ago, was all super psyched that I was gonna be like, we're fully here. And then Scott ruined it for all of us. So
Yeah.
But I'm so happy to announce the triumphant return of the Albanessener. And I practiced that and still fucked it up. So, Sam, welcome back after a very, very long stint away. Haley, welcome back after a very, very long stint away.
Thank you. I'm glad I'm not at work right now.
Yes. We all are.
Yeah. You aren't at work right now.
No.
Did
I got
you
home
figure this out?
Got home 20 minutes ago.
She is at our new apartment, though.
Yes, she is.
Which is
she
very
did give
nice.
us. Yes, she gave us a
Here's
mini.
our weird electric box.
Yes.
That was the first thing that I noticed when you first came in.
Yeah.
I was like, is that a door? Is there like a stairs? I'm like, oh, no, that's a power box. Never mind.
It's just like all our stuff.
Yeah.
All four of them.
Yeah.
It's like going like 4 breakers.
The 6.
Yeah, no.
6.
7. 4. 9.
8675309?
Yep. You should just now that he did that, you need to call that the Jenny box.
Sure.
Yeah.
We can call it that.
Haley, do you know that reference? Did you know what I referenced?
3, Red?
Yeah, I think it's a song.
Yeah. Is that for a musical?
Anyway,
No.
I think Haley and I will be no, it's not. Haley and I will be either sharing. We'll be in the same place, like either sharing one screen or I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do.
That's all right. You guys will figure it out.
We're roomies.
We're roomies again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it worked out really well last time. So I mean,
Yep.
and when we go on investigations and stuff, it'll be easy to pick the two of you up.
True.
Yeah.
Are we actually able to park there now? Because
I mean, there's street parking. Yeah.
Yeah. It's street parking.
No. Oh well. It'll never be my car. So, although if somebody else wants to drive, you're more than welcome to throw your vehicle in the mix. But yeah, no, I'm glad you guys are getting back together. But I mean, you guys are coming back together for.
Yes, we are.
So, and then will that happen next week?
No, this weekend.
Well, right, but next week. I mean, next week you'll be
together.
In the same apartment. Sweet.
Yes.
Very nice.
I'm moving in this Saturday is my move-in day. Everything will be moved in, and I will be living there.
I would hope. So, how is everybody doing? How was the last 2 weeks? I guess.
Good.
I was to say, wow, go everybody.
Not much to report.
No.
Yeah.
There's not really much we can do nowadays.
I actually did not hear about these new Minneapolis-St. Paul restrictions until last night.
Yeah.
So I've been a little out of game a little bit, I guess.
I'm not even just doing it to heed the restrictions. It's just like literally almost everyone I know has gotten COVID in the last 2 weeks or knows someone that's gotten COVID in the past 2 weeks. So I haven't been going anywhere. Like I haven't been hanging out with anybody. I haven't been going anywhere because I don't want it. I don't want to get it.
I'm with you on them. I mean, obviously last week I got sick. I don't think it was COVID though. Just because I just don't. But besides a kind of a nasty little cough, which I believe I got from Mr. Sawyering, downstairs. I'm back to full strength, but beyond just a little malnourished. But that's my fault, not COVID's. But I do a COVID test on Friday, so hoping to see how that goes. But
Nice.
yeah, I mean, nothing much changes for me if it's a positive or negative because I don't see anybody. So,
Mhm.
and if I do go out, like you, Sam, I wear a mask. Doesn't matter how I feel. So I guess these are the times we live in now. I'm sure that Minneapolis, St. Paul will not be the last to do these restrictions, and it probably won't be long until we're all working from home again.
Probably, yeah.
But
Yeah.
at least that means we're always going to be available to do the show.
Well, I can't work from home personally, but yes.
Well, I mean,
You mean you can't ship,
The lab is not
Lube.
here.
a
Take
few
home lube
sheets
lab?
of like just a few sheets of plastic, and you can have a makeshift lab at home.
Yeah.
Our living room's big enough.
There you go.
Speaking of that, apparently, I've had a couple coworkers say that they think the lab is haunted, so we might need to investigate.
Done.
Okay.
Let's do it.
I don't know if that would work though, because we'd have to shut off all the instruments, and I don't know if I'm allowed to like do that. But I think it'd be cool. We could investigate lube tech. We can give it a shot.
Well, I mean, in order for us to come in there anyway, you'd have to have the higher ups permission anyway.
Right.
So I mean, if they're going to allow us if they would actually allow us to come in and do that kind of stuff, they would have to understand that for a couple hours, the instruments would have to be shut off if it's possible.
It's questionable because I think it might screw some of them up if they're off. And also, we kind of run quality like almost 24/7. So I don't know, but maybe the rest of the building we could do.
And if that's the case, that's the case. I mean, you run into that sort of thing in bars and restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to turn off the coolers,
Right.
the refrigerators, that sort of thing. They always have the gas like flowing through the stove, the burners and stuff like that. So that always has that, sound. Yeah, I mean, you deal with that in cases all over the place, and the only way to do that is you get rid of audio. There's no point in having a recorder going in an area where you're not going to be able to hear shit. So I mean, it's video and then equipment, and that's what you rely on. So I mean, we don't really, depending on what is actually happening. I mean, you don't really spend much time in that area anyway, because you're just not going to get anything.
Right.
The other thing about that's bad, if you're going to use, you have to be very particular about the kind of equipment that you use. Like you can't use K2s or EMS, because if all of those refrigerators and coolers and instrumentation is going, it's going to send your EMF off the roof, off the charts anyway.
I think it'd be really interesting to bring a K2 to the lab or just like an EMF meter and see how high it is, because it has to be insane with the amount of just like electronics and machines we have going in there.
So, I mean, let me ask you this. How much then with all that instrumentation? Let's just say you did take an EMF. I'll loan you one. I'll loan you a K2 or whatever to take in and see what happens.
Yeah.
How much then of the paranormal activity is EMF based? Is a hallucination or somebody jumping the gun on something because they're whacked out on EMF?
No, that's a great question, and that interestingly kind of ties into my like sort of topic tonight, because I couldn't think of one. I'll be real. I'm not perfect. Synchronicities, if you will.
I'm not perfect.
I don't wake up every day and have a great topic for the show. But
you could have woken up with just one day, woken up with a topic for the show, and
every once in a while I wake up with a topic for the show. But today was not that day. So
harness your inner Lauren and write it down.
Yeah, I was gonna say we can't all be Lauren. Okay,
Lauren's a better Virgo.
We can't all have a master.
There are no better or worse Virgos.
She's better at being a Virgo than I am.
I'm sorry.
You're better at being a paranormal Virgo.
I've been called a Leslie Knope so many times. It's not even funny.
I can see that. I admire that.
Yeah. Well, I do have a paranormal binder, so it's not far off, but
oh my goodness.
It's fine. It's fine.
That's fine. It's cool.
It's fine. We're fine.
I have, you know what? I respect it. We all have our things, our Virgo things. I have an astrology planner this year.
I love that.
I'll hit you up, Lauren.
I love that. I'm internally freaking out.
Okay. Anyway, I had no ideas, so I talked to my coworker Marcus. I'm not sure if I can say he's not gonna watch this. I'm not gonna say redacted. I'll tell him to watch it. I was like, Marcus, I don't know what to talk about on the show tonight. So what is one question you have about like the paranormal? Or like something, you know, just that sort of area of study. And he was like, well, sometimes I feel like I've like seen things, but I never know if it's just like my mind playing tricks on me or if it's real. So I guess like what are some ways that we can kind of like tell the difference between just matrixing and what is actually paranormal activity? And I think that could be connected to like the EMF. Like if there is a ton of EMF going on, that can sort of influence that. But I guess I'm curious if you guys have other sort of ideas for that, because I think it's kind of a tough question to answer.
Yeah, it is very tough to answer because honestly, there isn't the only definitive thing I can think of in like proving that it wasn't just your mind playing tricks on you is if you also get evidence to support the fact that you saw or heard something. Like if you heard someone say, "Hey, you," and then you catch an EVP, of a spirit saying, "Hey, you," that's pretty definitive that it actually happened. Same with, I saw a figure in that doorway and then the camera, picked up a figure in the doorway at the exact same time. So that's kind of the only way you can definitively say that anything happened, because we sort of make the distinction that if there's no evidence to support your personal experience, it remains a personal experience and something that you can't really, say definitively if it was anything at all. So I think evidence supporting the experience is what makes it something that wasn't in your mind, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think kind of like we were talking about with the EMF, you have to take in all of the environmental factors that are going on, whether that be inside of your person or external. So I think that's important to just kind of like take a step back and see maybe what could be causing this. Like if you're taking a medication that one of the side effects is hallucinating, that might be something to look into. But yeah, other than that, I would agree with exactly what Sam said. I think that's there's no harm in like placing a recorder down and just kind of letting it run just to either validate or maybe give you a little bit of assurance, like, okay, there's nothing here, or okay, maybe this is something to look further into. But I mean, like if you're seeing stuff out of the corner of your eye, maybe just like, I don't know. There's a lot of factors, like I said, that go into it, but maybe just it could be that something is there and it just doesn't want to be seen yet, or it's trying to like hide or something like that. I don't know. Could be a million different things, but.
So I think that there's a difference here that we have to throw out there. One, I mean, Sam, 100% agree with you on the whole evidence thing, but that's for us. That's when we go into a case. That's when we're trying to prove something. I don't think that that's what Marcus was actually asking. No. He was just asking for him personally, if it's a homeowner or I mean, that's what we're called in to do. We're called in to prove it. We're called in to find that evidence. But for the homeowner or the coworker or wherever the hell they may be, I think he was asking how would they tell the difference between it. And they're not going to have a recorder on them. They're not going to have anything in order to actually prove that. So, I mean, let me just say, phenomenal question. So,
right.
Full kudos to Marcus for
Marcus
me.
Marcus is a G.
Yeah.
G.
Yeah. So compliments to the chef on that one.
Chef G.
Yeah. That's a really good question. And there's not a lot that they can do. They're going to have to take into account, as Lauren said, all of the environmental factors, which hardly anybody knows how to do. Because we've had this conversation before on people who don't know that high EMF does shit to people's minds. There's a lot of people who you said the word matrixing to them, they would think that you're talking about a Keanu Reeves movie. I mean, like, they have no idea any of these terms or what they mean. So I mean, obviously the number one thing of matrixing are mirrors. Is it a photo of a mirror? And if it is, you're probably matrixing, unless it is so flipping clear that you can't deny it. I recently saw an episode of A Haunting where the whole thing was he took a whole bunch of photos of a mirror, and then they actual photographs, and it was like, look at this face. I'm like, it's a mirror with a whole bunch of smudges and shit on it. Of course you're seeing a face. I'm like, why would you even put that on TV? But things out of the corner of your eyes, if it's just a brief flash of something and you turn and look and there's nothing there, that could be your imagination. It depends on, I guess, the intensity of what the encounter or the experience actually is. If it's something like a mirror, if you're looking at a photo, if it's a blurry video, taken from your phone, there's all of these different factors of whether you're experiencing anything. How do you feel at that time? Were you feeling really, really good and then you became nauseous? But that's, like Lauren said, the environmental factors. What is going on with you at that time? I mean, the thing about it is that unless you're in this field like we do, or like we are, I mean, if I got the proper phrasing correctly, but I mean, that's where we come in. That's our job, to take all of these different criteria that the client gives us, and then we're able to tell them that actually sounds like something, or it could be this. So, I mean, if he ever has anything like that he would like to throw past you, and if you wanted to bring it in to throw past us, if you can't answer yourself, I mean, I have every confidence in the fact that you would be able to give a proper answer to, probably 95% of any experience that somebody would come in with. So yeah, I would just say the intensity of it is, how clear it was, how definitive it was. I mean, you guys know me. When I ask questions, I don't just ask for a knock, because anything can be a flippin' knock. It's got to be something definitive, something that is going to say, this is exactly what I've asked for, and not something that is just random. So if somebody cannot definitively say this is exactly what I saw or what I am seeing, they're probably matrixing. They're probably misinterpreting. So that's my answer to that one. But what about you? What do you think?
No, I like that answer, because it is a really tricky question to answer, just because there is really no right or wrong. There's no set of rules for what a paranormal encounter is going to be like. Because, you could say, like, well, did you experience chills? But not every paranormal experience has that, where you're feeling cold or something like that. Or, did you hear something? And it's like, well, not every paranormal experience involves hearing something. But I do like sort of just the perspective of bringing like a healthy amount of skepticism to, any sort of just like day-to-day experience that isn't like what we do, where we have these cameras and recorders. So, like, if it was just a flash in the corner of your eye, then maybe that's all it was, or if you're, for instance, like, I feel some skepticism about some things that my coworkers have said about like hearing like noises in the lab, and it's like, well, there's a lot of noises in that lab. There's constant noise in that lab. So I'm not going to really take that as being paranormal. Or like, for instance, like the past couple nights I'm staying in a new apartment, and it's like there's all these new noises to me, and it's like I'm not going to take every last noise as meaning there's a ghost in my apartment. I just think maybe I'm not used to living here yet, you know? So I think, like you said, the definitiveness of it is important. And also just like, yeah, like I feel like if you're sitting there wondering, like, did that actually happen? Then maybe that's kind of proof enough that there's a reason to doubt it. Like, I don't know. If I saw an apparition, I think I'm going to be pretty sure that I saw one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess I like
I
that
would,
answer about definitiveness. Go ahead, Sam.
I would agree with that, honestly, because like all of my most like intense, and by intense I mean relatively, because I haven't had like a traumatic paranormal experience or anything, but like my most intense experiences have always been like, no, I saw that. Like, you know, when I saw the shadow figure in at Ashmore, like that was a I know I saw that situation, not a I feel like I saw something. And usually those I brush off and usually don't remember, but like you remember it and you kind of know. So yeah, and for like what I was trying to say before, I think, you know, I think I still stand by the fact that you can't really know unless you have evidence for it. And I'm just kind of that kind of person. I like having proof for things. And that's really realistically the only 100% definitive way to know if it was just an, you know, your mind, or if it was real, unfortunately. But yeah.
Right. And Haley, just so you, I don't know if this will bring you comfort or not, but I know the first night or two, might have been the first 2 nights that I moved above the funeral home, when I first left home, I thought that I was going to wake up and see the spirit of a headless swordsman, you know, come to chop my head off. So then I was fine. So after that, so I mean, takes a day or two to get used to it. So I do think you're fine.
No, I don't really think this place is haunted.
That apartment is also so empty right now.
Yeah.
It's like it needs to be filled with stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll both take care of that over time.
I mean,
we'll spend money.
We're planning. Yeah, we're planning. We have a plan. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good. All right, who wants to go next?
Can I jump in and answer Pam's question to me?
Yes,
real quick?
I was actually gonna throw that out there and then spaced. Yes, do it.
Yeah, so I don't have a paranormal, like strictly paranormal Pinterest. I have 2 related Pinterest boards. One of which is regarding like crystals, because I just associate that kind of, and I use a lot of them for protection on our investigations. So I have crystals board, and then I also have a board that is very focused around like meditations and how I protect myself like mentally when we go into investigations. I call it my psychic self-care board. I have those too. Yeah. I should really have just like a strict paranormal board. I don't know. Does Pinterest really have like a paranormal side?
I feel like it's gotta. That could be an interesting place to look for topics too.
Yeah. I've been looking mostly on Reddit. Maybe I should look on Pinterest. I'll get back to you next week on how that goes.
What if Pinterest is just a gold mine for paranormal?
I'm gonna waste so much time on there.
I will save you guys some time. No, it is not.
I'm gonna go down that rabbit hole. I just know it.
I was to say, Mike, how do you know? Do you spend a lot of time on Pinterest?
Nope. But I have had to do obviously research for the Odyssey files over the years, and I have seen Pinterest come up a lot of times, but it's always been like top 10 haunted places in the US that, you know, scare the hell out of you. You know, it's nothing of any like substance.
Just a lot of listicles.
Pretty much. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, good on the rabbit hole if you want.
I'll report back.
She'll take one for the team.
I will gladly take a Pinterest deep dive for the team. I have no problem with that.
Okay, then. Now,
what a sacrifice you're making.
I want to hear more about this second board.
Second board.
Your second board.
Oh,
my psychic self-care board.
Your psychic self-care board.
Yeah, because we always talk about how we have, at least I know I have a very defined routine for before and after an investigation. That's very important to me.
Yes.
And as I've been kind of developing myself, I've had to get ideas. So maybe there's a list of mantras that I really like, or there's a meditation that they have a link to that I really like, and all these ideas. I also just love seeing the aesthetics for people like setting up like their self-care nights, because it gets me more motivated to do it. So it's just more like that stuff, honestly.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's a private board, so you cannot see that.
So Lauren, I have a question like kind of going off of that, because
Please.
I also like crystals, but I haven't looked a ton into like what crystals do you think are best for sort of protection on investigations?
I usually go for the black tourmaline, which I know you have.
I do
know
have
I've
one of those.
I've seen you carry that on.
Oh god.
Uh-oh.
I'm back.
So there's the black tourmaline. I have a little heart of labradorite that I bring with me, that I usually carry in my pocket. I actually have I went to a metaphysical shop over in Green Bay when I was visiting my parents, and they had, I went up to the lady and I'm like, hey, I do paranormal investigations. I need protection. What would you recommend? And she said, oh, we actually have a pre-made little packet that is for protection that has like 7 tiny little stones in it. I could actually grab it. I forget specifically what's in it. Give me 1 second. I will be right back.
Crystals.
Dead air, dead air, dead air,
Crystals.
dead air, dead air.
I'm back. I found it. So it's just like this little tiny pouch, and it's got it came with like a little card that tells you like what each thing is and what it's like supposed to do and everything like that. So it has, let me see, there's fluorite, tourmaline, I think there's goldstone in there. Yeah, turquoise, peridot, picture jasper, and smoky quartz. Smoky quartz is a really good one.
Word.
Yeah. So
yep. Quartz.
I could go on about crystals, so I'm gonna cut it off there.
No, I appreciate that, because I know tourmaline is a good one, and I usually bring that, except for I have no clue where it is. I have lost like 5 of my crystals.
Oh. They'll turn up somewhere. You just moved. Everything
that feels
gets
like a bad
around.
omen. I don't know where they went.
I'm sure it'll turn
Yeah,
up
I could
somewhere.
never carry around crystals because I would just lose them.
I keep mine in a
don't
very
lose things.
specific tin. A
Mm.
very specific place. I know where all of my crystals are because I'm terrified of losing them.
Have you been to Divine Time in Apple Valley?
I have not. No. What is that?
Sina was there when I went there the other day.
Really?
Oh,
Crystal shop.
okay.
Yeah. She does
I've
readings
seen
there.
that she posts somewhere, and she's somewhere in Apple Valley, but I didn't know it was like at a store or something like that.
Yeah, I saw her and she was like walking towards the back room, so I didn't say hi, and I wasn't sure if she'd recognize me because like I had my mask on and sometimes I feel like I'm forgettable. But anyway.
Why did you
let's
say
not
it like
unpack
that?
We're not gonna unpack that right now. But yes, she is there, but we'll have to go sometime, is what I'm trying to get to.
You and me gotta go crystal shopping.
Let's go.
We gotta do
Let's
it.
go.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. Who would like to pick the next topic?
I can go since Sam looks like he's busy with a little furry friend there.
This is
Well,
Lola.
Yeah.
This is Lola, my cat.
Hi, Lola.
She's
You know,
decided
Lola's
to.
gazing longingly at your jugular, right, Sam?
Yep.
Wear a scarf.
Okay.
That's all I got to say.
Lola's my scarf.
She looks very fluffy. She'd be
She's
good
very
scarf.
fluffy. She's just gonna chill in my lap probably for the rest of the time. So
Okay.
Gotcha.
So my question to everybody. So kind of on the topic of protection. I was thinking about this the other day and I'm like, how have I not really thought about this? So we always talk about where, like, if a situation, when you're on an investigation, like if there's paranormal experiences going around and you feel unsafe, it's okay to remove yourself from that situation because everybody has their own line as to where they're not comfortable. So I guess you see all these TV shows where people are kind of just putting that line aside for the sake of research and putting themselves in dangerous situations for the sake of, like, to say, I got the best evidence ever. Like, look at me. They kind of push their own personal safety aside. So I guess that I wanted to ask everybody here. So where do you draw that line for yourself, or are you willing to push your safety aside if it means getting the, like, best evidence that you could ever get? Like, could you go to that point? Is there a line where you're just like, I don't care what evidence I would get, I am not going to put myself in that situation? Like, what are your feelings on that?
Yeah, I'm very much a person that's not in this field to get, like, the best evidence in the world. Like, obviously I want to get evidence and I want to do my part to expand the research and the, you know, the evidence and the findings of the paranormal field, but I'm not going to willingly put myself in situations where I could get hurt or have something happen to me that affects me just to get a piece of evidence that, quite frankly, is, you could probably get without putting yourself in that situation. So I wouldn't say I would do that. I don't do that now, and I don't feel like I would ever get to a point where I would even want to do that. So yeah, I don't like putting myself at risk. And of course, I think my line for what I feel like is unsafe or something I don't want to do is going to change the more I do investigations. But right now, I have no intention of investigating by myself or being in any sort of location by myself because, I like having the other person there as kind of grounding, but also security. And I'm not in the business of going in places that could have a demonic entity and then provoking just to get evidence, and a lot of people on paranormal shows are doing that. And I don't want to put myself in danger just to get the footage of being scratched or whatever, because I don't want trauma. So, yeah, that's my opinion on that.
I like, oh God, I had a thought, now it's gone. Okay, well, never mind on that thought. Okay, so I think that for me, the line is very much drawn at sort of like when things start to get physical. So if I am, me or anyone that I'm with really is like pushed or, violently sort of grabbed, if someone is scratched, something like that, I personally, I guess I can't draw that line for other people, but I am not comfortable with that. And I know we always try to make that very clear, or at least I try to make it clear on an investigation. Like, I don't care if they like want to, touch my hair or like brush past my arm, but if I feel like I'm being like pushed or shoved or like something forceful like that, that is a no bueno for me. So I think that is somewhere where I would draw a line in terms of just personal safety. And yes, okay, I do remember what I was saying. I like what Sam said about like investigating alone. That is also, I think, a line for me. Like I will certainly sit in a different room from someone, like across the hall, but I don't think investigating alone is a great idea. Just it's one of our kind of rules that we have, you know.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
the line there is like investigating alone is like when you are in a space and you are not within earshot of another person and another person doesn't know you're in there.
Yeah.
Right? Because we've definitely done it before where somebody's on the other side of the floor and the other person, but always within earshot and always very easy to tell the other person if there's something going on.
Yep.
And yeah, we kind of never break that rule. And I don't want to investigate alone, and I don't think it's safe to investigate alone. So, yeah.
Yep.
Was that your entire answer, Haley?
Yep.
Okay. I don't really have a line, at least not one that I have found for me personally. I obviously draw the line at the safety of people who I'm with.
Yeah.
If you guys, I mean, I couldn't give a shit if I haven't felt a single thing all night. You guys coming to me and like, we need to go. We're gone. You know, that's where I draw my line. I've been in the, you know, I was anyway before I left a couple of years ago, but I was in the transportation industry since I was 19, up until obviously a couple of years ago. And there was one thing that I was taught right from the start, especially when it came to driving. It's all right, Haley. And that was no piece of freight is worth your life.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't need to make extreme choices and extreme actions to get somebody a book, you know, that sort of thing. Even though you never know what actually is inside the box, but still, none of it is ever worth your life. Retail has the same thing. You know, if somebody comes in with a gun, give them the effing money. It's not worth your life to save $112. It's the same thing with evidence. I don't give a shit what's going on. No piece of evidence is worth you know, getting an attachment or getting attacked or getting pushed down the stairs or, you know, in the extreme circumstances, you know, partially possessed, you know, whatever. I would never do anything like that for evidence. I would do it to help a client. I would do it to try to find answers if I had to. But again, that would all depend on who's with me. You know, if everybody, maybe Sam wants to, will, you know, we'll go in there, you know, with me or whatever, then fine. But again, the rule is you don't go in alone. You guys know this. So if you guys were all like, nope, that is just not worth it, then that's the end of it. But I have not found a line yet where I have had to be like, we need to leave. And evidence has never been an issue, never been even a factor in any of it. The one thing that I do want to point out, though, since you brought it up, Lauren, in your original question, is what we see on TV. Chances are they're not in any danger, period. I honestly cannot. Maybe I can't say that. I bet Jason and them would do it just because they've been in it for so long. But GA, a lot of these little rundown thing, I don't even think Amy and Adam would ever do it. They would never go into some extremely unsafe thing just to get evidence. Ever. They would wait until daylight and then, or the next night, and then go in and refilm something that shows them doing it and then, whether anything actually comes of it, who knows? But I don't think that what we see is not what is actually happening. So I don't think we should give the TV people that much credit on the fact that they're going in to try to find answers and they're putting themselves in jeopardy. They wouldn't do it. There'd be so much liability and insurance shit that would go on with that. I doubt the production company would even do that to them. They would find a way to fake it, or to act it out, or do something. I really need to stop hitting my cord, and do that. But yeah, as for the line, my line is wherever your guys' line is. So, and if any of you have a further along one than I do or whatever, I'll be right there with you. So, but excuse me.
I have a question for you, Mike. When Josie got scratched at Farrar, how did that change how you conducted the investigation for the rest of the night?
Josie was made to obviously go outside.
Yeah.
But that's a little complicated because that was an event.
Oh,
so it wasn't necessarily a all right, guys, let's pack it in. Somebody got scratched. Josie, like I said, was obviously made to leave. She did not come back in until she was ready. And then herself, actually, I think it was even during that, while she was outside, Dave and I then went up to the principal's office and had a little chat about that. And I think she came back in, it's probably like an hour later. She was outside for a while, which was her call. But it became more focused, I guess you could say, because it was one of those where she wasn't doing anything, nothing, literally. We got a little aggressive, just him and I. Nobody else was allowed to. And we had a little conversation. We wanted to, I guess, try to understand what had happened.
Yeah.
But no, just because it was an event, it didn't really stop anything. And it was way later in the night. I think it was probably already after midnight before that happened. So, there wasn't much to the investigation anyways. But it's interesting that you would ask that, though.
Well, I was just thinking about, personal lines and stuff like that, and how you were talking about other people's safety. So, that's the one situation I can point to where that kind of thing would be put into place. So, yeah, I just wanted to ask, about that and how it changed things, and how it might have changed boundaries for Josie as well.
Yeah, it definitely changed boundaries for Josie. That's for sure. I think that's when she took Scott would probably be able to answer this better than me, but I think she took like a 5-month hiatus. Something like that. She didn't go out for a while after that happened. The other thing that happened during that time, she didn't tell us right away. It didn't just happen and she was like, hey, this happened. She just sat there. And I think it was during the break after that entire session where she told, I think, Dave and I what had gone on. So I'm not even sure how many people even knew. In the event of what had happened. I think she told some people outside of what took place. So I don't even think a lot of people even knew. But for myself specifically, it took on a new focus. It wasn't just, is everybody having a good time? Has anybody experienced anything? It's, I want some effing answers, and I want them from you now. Everybody leave this room because shit's about to get real.
It's gonna get ugly.
Yeah, exactly. So just real quick, Pam, that happened in the auditorium up on the top floor. And then Lauren, you have not been able to answer your own question.
Yeah, so I like what you said about the TV shows, because I think people don't realize that a lot of it is fake. It isn't as dramatic as everybody believes it to be, as they try to make it look. I do think it's dangerous when you get people watching that show that think they can go do that and actually put themselves in a bad situation. So I think that's what makes me nervous about that whole thing, is them giving the illusion like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this and everybody's watching me, and then some local kid goes out and does it for himself and actually puts himself in harm's way. That's what makes me very nervous. Please don't do that. Please don't trespass. Please don't go into abandoned buildings. You're going to fall through the floor. Please don't. Just be safe. Make good choices. But yeah, in terms of my line, I feel like I'm still kind of defining that, just because, like, I don't know. I'm just still getting used to everything, and now I have a few other things thrown into the mix, and I know that I definitely draw the line at any violent physical touching, kind of like Haley. I'm not okay with that. Please do not hit me, scratch me, do anything like that. I have my space. Like, the only reason I would like be okay with something touching me is like the situation that comes to mind is like, okay, if there's a lost little kid and they like hold my hand, I'm okay with that. Like, as long as it doesn't have malicious intent, I'm not openly inviting it, but like I wouldn't be opposed to that, I guess. It's not totally blocked off. That could change, but yeah, I definitely right now my line would be like, okay, is this a threatening feeling environment? And do I feel like a pin is going to drop and everything is going to explode, whether that's true or not? If that's how I feel, I'm like, maybe it's time to leave, just because I'm still kind of finding my way about things. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't sacrifice my own safety for evidence, or to get people to look at my video on YouTube and get like fame and go viral. I know a lot of people would do that though. And that's what makes me nervous. Like, don't sacrifice your own personal safety for views or likes or shares or whatever it is. It's not worth it. Like we said, just make good choices. But
yeah. I have
Have
another.
fun, be safe, make good choices.
Okay, Mom.
That's the third edition of our T-shirt. It's
Yeah.
just gonna say "Make good choices."
Make good choices.
Yeah, make good choices.
Make good choices.
I think another sort of, I guess, line for me is if I feel like there are spirits there that aren't following our rules, because we come into every investigation and we say, we're here to respect you. Don't drain our energy, don't attach to our vehicles, don't attach to us, etc. Like, we have all these rules because we come to places, with respect, and I do expect that back, So I think that's another sort of thing. Like, if I feel like we are actively not being respected, or at least that our rules are not actively being respected, if we, somehow, if someone picks up that a spirit has an intention to try and attach to one of us, then that's something that won't work for me, because I expect the rules to be followed, and to have respect, because we try to bring that and make an effort to do that. So yeah, that's another little tidbit.
Thankfully, we have not been to a place yet, as far as I'm aware, where that has not happened.
Right.
Where even though the reputation of the place is a little darker, a little bit more aggressive, what we get and what the reputation is is almost never the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And I think you guys have figured that out for yourselves, which I'm so glad to hear. But and yeah, and I hope that has made it easier for you to go into investigations, no matter what the. Because I mean, I remember that there's been cases where I brought to you guys, Sam and Haley, you especially, where you're like, I'm not comfortable doing this investigation. That seems really bad.
Yeah.
And then we go in there and there's like junk, like there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
Or it's something, obviously that was completely blown out of the water, or, exaggerated and that sort of stuff. So, I mean, I just hope that as you guys get more investigations in, and as we go into more places, both private and public, that, regardless of whatever the claim or story is, that it's probably not as bad or as intense or extreme as stories and reputation makes it out to be. Like, I honestly, I mean, Lauren, you can answer this. I mean, we were all super psyched and even, I guess, a little apprehensive going into Old Shakopee.
Old South Pittsburgh.
Old South Pittsburgh. God damn it. I did it again.
I didn't
like,
drive all the way
Old
to
Shakopee?
Nashville for Shakopee.
Yeah. Did it again. Yeah. Old South Pittsburgh Hospital.
That place has a reputation.
It has a reputation. But what did we get? Yeah. We got one Periscope hit and nothing else the whole night, no matter where we went.
Which is not to say that the spirits owed us anything, but it's just to say that places have reputations, and we had actually had friends of ours that had gone there recently that were like, oh my gosh, this place is crazy active, and maybe they just weren't feeling it with us. Which is well within their right.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong. That the whole thing was not a knock on Old South Pittsburgh. It was, we had this reputation, we had the stories behind it. We got something completely different and something way, way less, something way mundane as opposed to what we were expecting. And I just think that that's the kind of mentality we need to take no matter what the case is. But I do want to answer Dover here thing, because he said, considering you guys are going into their spaces, don't you think they should make the rules? And I think, and it's a good point. It honestly is, except I think that you misunderstand what our rules are. Our rules is not, the rules that we're talking about are not meant to be like, you're required to answer our questions. Like, those are not the rules that we're talking about. We're talking about safety rules.
They're boundaries.
The boundaries. Basically, I mean, I could just, since I've done it 1,000 times, rule number 1, you're not allowed to touch or harm any of us. We're not there to harm you. We're not there to disrespect them. We're not there to do any of it. We would just like that respect back. Rule number 2, you can interact with our equipment while we're here tonight, but that's it. You can't attach yourself to it. You can't follow, any of our cars or any of us. And rule number 3, you can't follow any of us home. Those are like the rules. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we tell them flat out, it's up to you if you want to talk to us or not. We hope that you will. Those are the only rules that we throw out there. So those are just for us. Safety rules, safety boundaries for what we do. Otherwise, that's it. We don't put anything else on them or us. And so far, it's helped. It's either helped or hurt. I don't know, because they might just be like, "Oh, well, we can't hurt them."
Not interested.
Not interested.
Not interested.
I guess I'll go play cards downstairs in the boiler room for a while they're doing their thing.
Yeah, I definitely think that in life you are allowed to have boundaries, whether that's working with real people or the non-living, or what's the phrase we use? non-person bodied,
non-corporeal, non-corporeal.
The otherwise physically bodied.
Yes, there you go, Mike. The otherwise physically bodied people. And if, yes, it is their space, that is a great point, and it is, sort of their rules, but we are allowed to have boundaries still. And if those are broken, then I will leave. So
yeah, honestly, I think we do play by the spirit's rules when we're there, because like if they have a preference for us not to go somewhere or not to touch something or whatever, we will not do that, because we're not in the business of making spirits angry. So we do play by the rules as long as they don't cross our boundaries, right? If they think it's okay to touch us or to push us, that's not okay with us. So then we leave, or we take action against it, So yeah, so we do play by their rules. It's more that we have boundaries, and yeah, you don't cross those boundaries, otherwise consequences happen, just like in real life.
And I think that one of the reasons that they don't cross our boundaries is because we don't try to cross theirs.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is not like room thresholds or something like that, but I mean, we don't disrespect them. We do ask them tons and tons and tons of questions. We ask them to, interact with our equipment, but if they don't, that's their choice. And it's not one of those, why are you being such a coward, or, why are you not interacting with us? It's not about that. It's, we're there to, I mean, I like to call them living history.
Yeah.
We're there to learn about them from them, and whether they want to give that to us or not, that's up to them. We also can't follow the rules if we don't know what they are. So, I mean, even that is asked. Do you want us in here? Should we leave? That sort of thing. We try to do that too. And I think that's, especially if you can go back to a place multiple times to the point where you can continue that dialogue, you can continue that respect and that relationship. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was actually going to touch on that real quick, but I'll wait for you to finish your thought, Mike.
No, that's fine. Do you think intentions may be misunderstood sometimes? Like maybe they scratch it. Lauren, why don't you go ahead then?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's very important that we say specifically, lay it out word for word, what our boundaries are, because there are a lot of situations where people go in and don't very intentionally state what their boundaries are, and in misinterpretations and misunderstandings can happen, whether somebody unintentionally invites something to happen to them and they don't purposely give the spirit permission to do something, but the spirit interprets it in a certain way. So I think it's very important to very clearly lay out what is okay, what is not okay with you. I mean, just to minimize any misunderstanding. We're just covering our bases. That's really all it is. But yeah, misunderstandings happen all the time, and it's usually with usually people that are more inexperienced and don't really know the safety regulations that should be put in place when doing a paranormal investigation, because it is very important.
Yeah, 100% agree. But what about the spirit's intentions? Are they ever misunderstood?
Yeah. It goes both ways, I think. Everybody can be misunderstood at times, and especially when it's, as far as we know, they can't say everything that's on their mind because it takes so much energy. So we might only get a snippet of what their intention is. So think about, if you're having a deep conversation with somebody, you only get one sentence. You could be misunderstanding everything else that they're saying, but we can't hear it. So yeah, it absolutely goes both ways.
Sam, you were going to add something, or no?
Yeah, I was just going to say I don't think we mean to. I don't think we mean to make the issue as black and white as in if anybody gets like scratched or pushed or boundaries crossed that we think the spirits are bad or whatever. You know, it's just that we have those in place to keep us safe, and regardless of their intentions, that's what our boundaries are. And I think more often than not, physical manifestations of spirits like scratching and pushing and stuff are ways they're trying to communicate, and I think it's one of the only ways they can get your attention, like definitively. Like if you get scratched and pushed, you're gonna notice, you know. And we've been on plenty of investigations where, you know, the client or the homeowner has been scratched, and really all the spirit wanted was to get a certain message across, you know. And like Lauren said, it's very hard for spirits to communicate, especially when it takes that much energy. So I agree. I do think spirits' intentions can be misunderstood, but that doesn't mean that they can just, you know, push past our boundaries just because they're misunderstood, you know?
Well, I agree with you on that one. Do I think their intentions are misunderstood sometimes? 100%. I also think that some of the stories that get out about like being scratched or pushed or whatever do not have the full context needed to go along with it. You know, if somebody comes out with the story of, I just got scratched, excuse me, you know, I got scratched at this place, there's something evil there, blah, 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 blah. But this person completely left out the part where they were being a complete flippin' dick for, you know, the last 30 minutes, and the spirit finally kicked the shit out of them. I think that's a misunderstanding right there. I know one of the big stories of Edinburgh Manor was the Joker and how aggressive he was, and he attacked this person, he attacked that person. I've investigated that place, I think, like 4 or 5 times now. Nothing bad has ever happened there.
No.
I couldn't get past 10 minutes of the Destination Fear episode there recently because it was full of shit and stuff that just isn't real. Never, ever, ever happened. I've never heard a story along any of those lines, period. I've never heard the claims that they suddenly came up with or quote unquote experienced there. But I've asked that spirit who dwells in the basement, I'm like, did whoever came out there with that story, did they deserve it? Were you justified in what you were doing? I'm like, I'm not here to judge you. I'm like, I just really want to know. And if so, good for you. Somebody comes into your home and disrespects you, kick the shit out of them. And I've said that in multiple locations, you know, where those kind of things happen. Somebody comes into your home and tries to ransack it or disrespect it, scratch them, slap them, push them down a flight of stairs. Do it. Because they deserve it. But then obviously the story comes out and the reputation gets even worse. And then you have more people trying to go in there to be dicks and try to get that thrill. So, but yeah, since it's all energy and we still know so little about how, when they use it, how it converts to a physical contact on us. I don't know what a spirit has to do in order to scratch somebody. I don't know if it's them trying to put their hand on a shoulder, but because they're just energy, it floats right through them. But somehow there's just a little bit of enough to make some sort of physical presence that the body then reacts in that kind of straight line form. I honestly don't know. And neither does anybody. I also have used this many times with you guys and during questions and stuff like that of, you know, when you're talking about private cases and homeowners and they think that they have some demonic entity in their house because they're having slamming doors and they're getting, I don't want to say like so much shoved, but like somebody's been attacked or they felt, their hair get pulled or something along those lines. Well, if you think of it in the way of a former homeowner, maybe that they don't know that they've passed, and they're suddenly becoming conscious. They're in their own home, but there's a new set of people there. Well, there's strangers in your house. What are you going to do? You're going to blow your damn gasket, and you're going to try to be like, what the F are you doing in my house? That does not make them evil. It just makes them wanting answers themselves. So, I mean, we always have to be aware that there are two sides to every story, no matter how bad the claims are. Because if there's anything that I can't stand right now, it's how many people think that everything is demonic. It's not. What's our new catchphrase, everybody?
It's not a demon.
Not a demon.
Not a demon. Okay? Calm the fuck down. It's not a demon. So
unless it is.
unless
it is a demon.
In the very rare case.
Yes, in the extremely rare case.
Yes. Step 1, it's not a demon. Step 2, unless it is. And step 3, if you think it is, please see step 1.
Yeah.
It's pretty much how it is. So, so Dover, I hope that answered your question on that one.
Good questions.
Yeah.
Very good.
It absolutely is. So, that does it for us. So we are going to take off. We'll be back next week. Same time, same place. So hopefully Scott will be back, and we can all be together once again. So, all right. So everybody have yourselves a great night. Stay healthy, stay safe. We want to see you back here next week. Everybody enjoy their evening.